Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Authentic Me. I'm your host, Sunny Lamba. And for the first time ever, we have a male guest on the podcast. I've always only had females on the podcast, and I am just super excited for this conversation. Number one, because it's something very close to my heart, but also because we both share the same name. So I am like, really, how is this going to go? Hi, Sunny. Well, hello, Sunny. So let's see how that goes. Let me introduce our guest. With me, I have Sunny Chopra. Sunny is a dedicated men's mental health life coach and a motivational speaker who has transformed his own life by controlling emotional struggles and embracing vulnerability. Growing up with the pressure to toughen up or man up and facing bullying, Sunny battled up his emotions for years, leading to self doubt, anxiety, and unhealthy coping mechanisms. Today, he helps men overcome emotional barriers, build confidence, and create healthier relationships with themselves and others. He encourages men to engage in tough conversations, the ones we are often taught to avoid, and empowers them to express their emotions with clarity and strength. Sunny has his own podcast as well. I am so excited to have you here. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Wow, just thank you for those kind words and yeah, just I wasn't aware that I was the first male, so even a bigger honor. Thank you for having me here. Sunny, I really like your name.
I wonder why.
Yeah, yeah. No, yes, thank you for, reconnecting with me and how wanting me to talk about this topic on your podcast. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to sharing my story. I'm looking forward to, peeling the layers and being as vulnerable as I can because I know it'll help a lot of people.
Yeah. So, just so everyone knows what's the topic, June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to talk about it. This topic is very close to my heart, and as our conversation goes, I'll share why I'm saying that over and over, that why this is so close to my heart. But I really wanted to bring the focus on that. My podcast is all about women and gender equality and mindset and all that, but mostly focused towards women. And over the years that I have been in this industry and I have been coaching, one thing I have heard over and over is that men need to be allies to women. I want to bring that focus and with your help back to
Hmm.
women. How can we be allies to men?
Yeah,
So we are
yeah.
talking about men's mental health today, basically.
Hmm.
My first question is that I have been, since we were going to be on here, and I've been following you for a while, I've been watching your page, and you are very open about how you used to
Right.
bottle up your emotions for
Hmm.
years. So, my question is, and maybe this is where you can talk a little bit about your story as well. What
Yeah.
finally pushed you to say, enough is enough?
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for providing that perspective of like what can, the females do in this role for men, because I think it plays a big part in helping men open up. And certainly for me, my wife was a big help in doing that. So for me, it really stems from childhood. I when I was 5, my parents divorced, and it was really confusing, not knowing what was going on and why my dad wasn't home. I didn't know what divorce meant, right? I just know dad was gone somewhere, and when's he gonna come home? And then there would be times where, through that time period of age 5 to 7, 8, 9, that I would try to cry or I would be sad, and my mom would say, "Don't cry, everything's gonna be okay." And I understood that she was looking out for me. She didn't want her son to feel sad. But what that actually did that I didn't realize was I learned to suppress my emotions at such a young age.
Yeah.
And it started to result in that happening at school. So I got bullied, I got picked on, but I would never tell anyone. I would never tell teachers, I would never tell my mom. And I would just hold all that pain in, whether it was physical pain, whether it was anything. Like I wouldn't react. I wouldn't react to anything if someone pushed me, punched me, no reaction whatsoever. And I remember like as a young kid, people would say like, "Oh, look at Sonny. He has healing powers. He doesn't feel pain." And
Wow.
it was tough. And then fast forward to my 20s, I went to, like I mentioned, I was told I wouldn't amount to much. There wasn't a lot of hope for me. Even a lot of family members and just in general, school wise too, I wasn't gonna do good things. I ended up getting a job at Best Buy after I graduated high school. Was there for 2 years and just wasn't happy where I was. Got fired. And then for a year and a half, wasn't really doing much with my life. This is a time where I did meet my wife, and it was funny. Like her parents, I was like, "So what does Sonny do for work?" And she's like, he's working on it. He's working on it." So at that time, the other thing that was really tough for me was I started to work out because I was always labeled that skinny kid, weak kid, and I just felt helpless when I was getting bullied. So I thought maybe I'll start working out. I started to work out. It really built my confidence. Then I finally went to university for human resources, and then that journey of 6 years of getting a degree, getting a diploma, working full time, it really built my work ethic. And
Yeah.
it made me realize like, holy, I wasn't supposed to achieve all this, right? I was told I wasn't going to do much in life, and I was able to do this. And now as I look back on that, at that point I felt like, okay, maybe I had overcome all the struggles of my childhood, the bullying, the parents' divorce, being told I wouldn't amount to much. So I felt like I healed, right? Like I'm good now.
Yeah.
And it gave me this sense of confidence that on the outside, look at me, I'm in university, I got a degree, I got a job now, I got a full-time career job, I'm making good money. And it really boosted my confidence, and rightfully so. But in terms of standing up for myself and um, talking about these emotions, two things. One was I just thought this is what life is as a guy. Like, if you feel stressed, overwhelmed, sad, you just gotta shut up, tough it up, keep pushing. That's what I thought. And the other thing that I started to find was when I would drink alcohol, I would find myself drinking excessively and to the point sometimes of blacking out. Or what would happen is I would have random outbursts. So it would be, telling like family members, like, how could you do this to me when I was younger? Why did you do this? Right? Like bringing up past issues. And in a way I felt really validated. Like, look at me, I'm standing up for myself. But it was almost like in a very uncontrollable way, right? It was just like I was like it was a tipping point and I couldn't control it, right? So I was
Yeah.
like getting everything off my chest. It felt good, but then it was damaging my relationships. And then the other thing I also found was um, especially when it was drinking, I would just, if I was watching something, it'd make me really sad, especially if it was scenes of like a dad and a son. I start crying, and it would just happen to me randomly. So again, at the time, didn't really have knowledge of mental health, or I wasn't a coach or anything like that, or a speaker. So I just said, oh, it's just because I'm drunk, right? That's what it is. But it continued. It ended up getting worse. And at that time, I think the fact that, and I've never like thought of it this way until this moment, but the fact that I really thought hustle culture was the way to go, I feel like that masked the pain that I was experiencing. Because it was like, I gotta keep pushing, I gotta keep going on. But my perspective really started to change when I started to read books. As you can probably see, I got a lot of books back there. That was like 2018, 2019. And then I read a lot of books about mental health, and it really opened my mind up. And I became more accepting of asking for help. And in 2021, I went to therapy, and it wasn't even for any of this. It was because I had work stress. And then one of my colleagues recommended, he's like, yeah, we have free employment, assistance program. Why don't you try it? It'll help you out. And it's okay, sure. And then within 10 minutes, it was right about my childhood, dove into the childhood stuff and just, fast forward, working through all that. And then I just realized like, wow, like, the reason these outbursts were happening, the reason this random crying was happening, because a lot of what happened to me as a child, I never let it out, and it was
Yeah.
coming up in my 20s and third and early 30s, and even though on the outside I had the success, inside I hadn't healed, and then that's where I finally, I still believe healing can be an ongoing journey, but there is a foundation that you can heal from, right?
Mm.
And I had finally felt like, okay, I've healed now, and I was like, wow, like I'm sure other guys are going through this too, and other guys are experiencing the pain. Other guys are thinking that this is just how life has to be, but it doesn't have to be that way. And that's when I really became a coach, speaker, and really an advocate for men's mental health. So I know that's a long answer, but I wanted to talk about my story as well as answer that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. And that's what I was looking for, so that
Mhm.
everyone who's listening kind of knows, okay, where is this coming from?
Yes.
And the other reason I wanted to know your story was that so many layers of things came up as you were talking. You
Yeah.
said like outbursts. And I don't want to put this focus back on that there's something wrong with men, but I want to have the society take that responsibility, that why is this happening?
Hmm.
My husband, who's the most calm person ever, but I have seen him have outbursts when he's outside in some situation. Someone said something, or you're standing in a line and you're not being served, and he's like waiting, and suddenly there's this outburst,
Yes. Yeah.
and then we blame the men for that, but we don't see that why is this happening, because there's so much of that suppressed emotion
Hmm.
that you don't feel safe taking it out, or you don't, or they don't have the tools to let it out in
The
a healthy
tools.
way,
Yes.
in a healthy way. So then it comes out as an outburst. And the other thing you mentioned, there were so many, but I had to grab a paper and write this one, was that when you would be drunk, you would cry and you thought, oh, it's because I'm drunk. And
Hmm.
I have seen that with my family, my uncles
Hmm.
and my like, in the extended family, that
Yeah.
they would get overly emotional when they're drunk. Oh, you are my daughter. Oh, you are this
Yes.
and that. And you understand, in our culture, we've seen that. The truth is, because when they are drunk, the barriers are down.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's
now they
easier.
are more
Yeah.
authentic. They are like all that conditioning and all those walls have kind of, and
Hmm.
that's when all those emotions come up.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've built a society where men have to be drunk to be able to cry.
Yeah. It's sad. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So from your story, I had so many things, but there's one thing I want to ask you. You talk a lot about vulnerability, and you said that you were able to, like, you went to therapy, and within 10 minutes, there was probably flood works or something.
Yes.
But for many men, that word is foreign.
Hmm.
Or if you ask them to be vulnerable, it feels like it feels threatening.
Yeah.
What for you, what does vulnerability look like in everyday life?
Just being real and being authentic, and I think showing up and not always having to have everything together, right? I think it's important, and I think the support around you is as important as well. My wife's really supportive in that, and the people around me, just because I've been doing this work for several years, people know how I am and how willing I am to be vulnerable. But I think early on, um I think it does, like you mentioned, sometimes we don't have that language or we don't know how to do it. I certainly didn't know how to do it, right? And I didn't, it was until I started going to therapy, reading books, getting that kind of language, and even standing up for myself, right?
Yeah,
I didn't do it in the right way. Yes, I stood up for myself, but it was a very, very aggressive way. I didn't know how, I just knew I was hurt, but I didn't know how to voice it. And I think sometimes men don't have that emotional language because we're not taught how to have that, right? And I think commonly what we see is either someone who's like me, who just like doesn't say a word, and like you said, is calm, nice, and then explodes, or there's someone that is just always angry, upset, and they're raging, right?
yeah,
It's hard to have that in between, right? I always tell people, let's get you, like the clients I work with, I want to get you to a point where you're kind, but you're firm as well, right? Let's find
yeah,
that balance,
yeah,
right? Because it's hard, and for me, it was just not knowing the language. But yeah, like you to answer your question, how does it show up every day? Like I think just being as real as I can. Like if I'm not all right and things aren't going well, I mean, I'm not gonna go tell every single person I'm not having a great day, but I mean, the people close to me,
yeah,
if I'm not able to make an obligation or go somewhere, I'll tell them, hey, listen, I got a lot on my plate right now. I'm really stressed. I'm overwhelmed. I can't do this right now. Like, let's touch base. It has nothing to do with you. It's just me. I need space versus saying, oh, I can't come by, right? Like I'm really, and it gives me some kind of that validation as well that I'm validating my feelings and not necessarily going everywhere and telling everyone, but it's like it's the reason why I can't do this or the reason I can't have this conversation with you right now or I can't hang out with you is because I'm really overwhelmed and it takes some time because it's almost like you want to do it all and everything and you gotta honestly check your ego and
yeah,
I've been burnt out several times in my life and that's one thing I realized is asking for that help, you know checking your ego and saying, I can't do all this. I got to say no to something because
Yeah.
I'm going to suffer the most here.
Yeah. And it brings me back to that childhood conditioning.
Hmm.
In your case, growing up without a male model, without a father,
Hmm.
there's this, I feel that men have this pressure on them that, oh, toughen
Yeah.
up, man up, and do everything. I'm just imagining as a 7, 8 year old, probably there was that thing that, okay, you're the man of the house. That's the thing we say, even though there's the mother there. But oh, you gotta do more, do more. I know my husband is such a type A that he'll
Hmm.
keep taking on things, keep taking on. He feels like I always say, I'm like, you're not Superman. It's okay. Calm down. You don't have to do everything. And then there's that conditioning of being the provider. That's really big, that a man has to be the provider. And now I want to talk about why this is so close to my heart.
Hmm.
In 2020, when the COVID started, my husband lost his job and he was without
Wow.
a job for 1.5 years.
Wow.
My husband is a very healthy man. He takes care of his health. He works out. He eats very healthy, and I don't even know how. Like his habits are just crazy. Like if he
Hmm.
says no sugar means like that's it. No one can force him. He won't even like take one small bite.
Right.
And still by the end of this 1.5 year, okay, he got his job and all, but his blood pressure was out the roof. And it's because he took so much stress of
Hmm.
being the provider for the family.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Right? So that conditioning, I think, also plays a big role that men are like, no, I got to work, 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 because if I don't, then who would? Do you
Hmm.
feel that pressure? Or do you feel men,
Sometimes.
maybe men in your practice feel that?
Yeah, I think in a general sense, yeah, that is there. It certainly is. And I think it's just something that, like you said, it's hard, right? Because you just think that's what you have to do. And I think like I've worked with a lot of men who do find putting themselves first is hard, right? And again, it's putting yourself first may sound like say no to everyone and just, go have a massage and tell everyone see you later, but it doesn't have to be like that, right? There's balance, and I think
Yeah.
what I always tell people and what works for me is like, filling my wife in and like, hey, like this week I got a lot of things to do. Like I need your help with things, right? Like,
Yeah.
whether it's splitting house duties or doing certain things, I need your help. I'm not gonna be able to do it because I know I'm gonna get overwhelmed. And it's just sharing like really what you're feeling and having like that dialogue and that support rather than just saying I can do it all together. And then after the other thing for me that I used to do, not no more. I've been 7 months sober, so I stopped drinking. But what I used to do would mask a lot of like my overwhelm would be okay. So, I have a lot to do during the week. I'm just gonna keep pushing, pushing because I know on the weekend I'll be having a few drinks and it'll calm me down. But really, what that was doing was it was like an endless cycle, right? Maybe I felt relief for that weekend, but then it would just be the same thing over and over. And I just felt like, obviously, for other reasons, alcohol was not allowing me to be the best version of myself, both
Yeah.
professionally and personally. And now that I've taken it out of my life, I'm having to be more aware because nor do I want or have that option of, hey, on the weekend I can go drink. And, I gotta incorporate mindful practices. I gotta start doing fun things. I gotta start, um, doing deep breathing and relaxing, right? Because now I don't have something artificial that's feeling that. And I'm happy it's not because it didn't feel natural. So I think it's just you as a guy, you need to look at the bigger picture, like, or even for the women listening, like what is the bigger picture? Like if
Yeah.
the man continues to go down this road, where could it lead to, right?
Yeah.
Alcohol, drugs, overworking, like or eating, like there's a lot of these things that obviously men are gonna go to those avenues, right? And
Yeah.
you know you can like say to someone like, oh, you can continue to push through, and they may push through, but then you're gonna see them turning to these various means to cope with, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really, as I think as a guy, you need to look at like, is this worth it? Is it really
Yeah.
worth it for me to do all this? And then I feel so overwhelmed and I'm just so like go go go. How do I calm this down, right? Maybe I need
Yeah.
to, like smoke or drink, and that this makes the problem worse.
Yeah, and also the physical manifestation, the health.
Yes.
We know that the rate of heart attack and all is more prevalent in men, and that
Yeah.
is because of the stress, and that is because they don't have an outlet. I
Hmm.
was talking to my husband the other day, and same thing. I'm a part of Toastmasters, and as I said, this topic is close to my heart. So I was doing a speech on men's mental health at my
Hmm.
Toastmasters club, and we
Yeah.
started talking, me and my husband. I wanted to know his viewpoint on that. And I said that we women, we are known to have our little communities. We talk about emotions. We talk about all the struggles and everything. And I asked him, I'm like, do you guys do that? And he's like, no. I'm like, so
Yeah,
you
it's
don't
true.
talk about your emotions? Like, what do you talk about? He's like, we talk about politics, we talk about economy, we talk about war. And I get that, okay, those are important topics, but what about, as you said, making myself a priority,
Yeah,
right?
it's not
So
common.
yeah, it's not common. And if okay, let me ask you this actually. So if a friend, and you were already in healing, but before, just for a moment, let's channel back to that old Sunny. And if
Hmm.
it was you with your bunch of guys, and someone said, "Oh, you know what? I'm dealing a lot emotionally," or without being drunk, that person starts crying. What would be the reaction in a group of men usually?
Um, yeah, I'm just trying to put myself back in that. I would just say like, hey, everything's gonna be okay. You'll be fine. You can overcome it. You're strong. Keep
Yeah,
pushing. I mean,
yeah,
I've always personally I've never been like I've been a more gentle, kind person, but I could see other
yeah,
people saying like you need to like just shut up and tough it up, don't be a wimp. I've
yeah,
been through worse. You got this. And I mean that doesn't really help, right? Like it's just like, yeah, you're saying you believe in the person, but that's kind of like saying like, oh yeah, go in the house that's on fire right now. You'll
yeah,
be fine. You have good agility. You'll be able to like the fire will be coming onto you, but you can run around. Just go. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Instead of saying like, hey, do not go in the fire. What's wrong
yeah,
with you? Right? It's like that guy.
yeah,
But again, it could be maybe because people don't care. It could be because they've gone through something similar, so to them it seems a norm, like this is normal. Or it could be they don't know how to support you, right? They just don't know what the language is because they don't do it themselves, right? And I always tell
yeah,
people it could be all three of those reasons, one of those reasons, or they're just there to like have a good time, get drunk, and just they don't want to talk about that, right? So
yeah,
it's very sad because then I think when you're in that setting and you feel that, it's almost like maybe, this group of people are right. Maybe I am being a wimp. Maybe
yeah,
I just need to shut up and toughen up. Like for
yeah,
me, my approach has really changed. Like I still believe in resilience. I still believe in like overcoming the odds and pushing through. But now what I do is I'll still have that same mindset. But now I'll say, okay, but I'm also suffering right now. I need a break. Like
yeah,
I'm gonna lose my mind. So then I tell myself, okay, maybe I'll take a day. I need to rest, whatever that looks like. Sleep more, do something fun all day. Then I'll come back to it stronger. Whereas before it was like, Sunny, just shut up, push through, and toughen up, right? So I've kind of adapted that approach, like that hard nosed approach, because I just think it's not healthy. It's just
it's not, yeah.
especially talking to yourself in that way is not good. And I think a lot of us guys just do that and we use it as like, oh, I'm gonna use this as an obstacle. Like, why create extra obstacles? There's already enough obstacles in life that we all probably have. Why
Yeah,
create more?
yeah, why create more? And it's, as you said, it's that balance. But even just taking that one moment to say, okay, I'm feeling these emotions and they're
Hmm.
valid. Yes, I have this thing, I gotta get through it, but let me just take 2 minutes and say, okay, my emotions are valid
Yeah,
and I know what I'm going through. Let me get through, finish this project or whatever, and then I'm gonna come back and take rest. Even that
right.
acknowledgement, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really want to now come back to, because I told you most of my audience are women. So I want
Hmm.
to focus on that. I want
Absolutely.
women to understand, number one, that their men are suffering. The men
Hmm.
in their life, whether it's their partners, their brothers, their fathers, or their even sons. Now, I
Hmm.
have a 13-year-old boy. And that's the second reason this is very close to my heart, because since he was very young, I've always said, it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. You can cry. Don't worry. You can cry. And then he turned 12 and something switched. My son a year ago would lose a basketball game and would be the only boy shaking hands with the other team, sobbing, and he would be shaking hands. But he was okay
Hmm.
to cry. But now, when they lose the game, I don't see. I can feel it, but there's no tears come out, which is okay, of course. You don't have to cry on the court, but maybe even later. And if I ask him, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm okay. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, like, Even though I tried my best to tell him it's okay,
Hmm.
he's still getting messaging from outside,
That's
from
what it
his
seems like.
friends. He's watching them. He's watching, he's a sportsman, so he's watching games on TV, the big athletes, and he
Yes.
doesn't see any man crying
Yeah.
or anything. So now I'm scared. So I want the women who are listening to take a moment and really recognize the fact that even though the men in our lives are putting a brave face, it is going to show up in some other form in their life. And then I want
Hmm.
from you to ask you this question, that what can they do if they know that, okay, my partner, my father, or someone is, how can we women create that safe space maybe, or encourage to talk or something?
Yeah. Yeah. And you kind of nailed one point on the head, but I think one thing I would say is to the females, are you ready to learn about this stuff? I think that's a question that you probably don't think of asking, but are
I
you
know,
ready to
right?
accept the fact that your man is struggling? I think that takes a lot. And I've seen situations personally, professionally, where that does happen. The man opens up and the woman can't take it because
Oh
it's
my
overwhelming, it's
God.
hard. It's
You
a
just
different,
called me out. You
yeah.
just called me out. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, just sorry, I'll answer the question. Like I've had that happen. So I think you have to, as a woman, prepare yourself for that. It's almost like I don't want to, I know this is an extreme example, but let's say, you know, someone's been in an accident, right? And they're at the hospital and you've been told, hey, like they're at the hospital, really bad accident, you should go see them, right? And you're kind of preparing yourself. You kind of know that
Yeah.
physically they're damaged, right? So
Mhm.
you kind of prepare yourself. I would suggest maybe using that same thing, like, okay, I'm gonna approach my husband, my boyfriend, whatever it may be, prepare a little bit that there is gonna be some, stuff that he's been carrying, and know that it's a part of him. It is who he is. Our emotions are us, right? Good, bad, happy, sad. They're all us. And I think preparing that and knowing that it's not gonna be a one-time thing. Like these kind of things are ongoing, especially if you tell the guy like, hey, like I know you've been struggling a lot. I've seen it, like you mentioned, I see it show up in other ways. Maybe I notice you're drinking more. I notice you're eating more, doing more weed, or just you're just like you're not as connected or present. What can I do to support you, right? What can I um take off your plate? Or do you need breaks? Or do you need rest? Like I think trying to take tasks off might be a good way to do it,
Yeah.
but also know like he may not have that emotional language, right? So these are things you might have to do is like to say those surface level things, right? Explore the why. Not like, oh, you're drinking so much. Like, yeah, obviously that may be a problem, but
Hmm.
why are you drinking so much? What's going on? Tell me, speak to me. I want to know. I want to hear this, right? And I think start with more like that surface level stuff,
Yeah.
instead of saying, "Hey, I've noticed you're really sad lately." Like, who? Every guy's gonna be like, "I'm not sad. What are you talking about?" Right? So start with like the actions. Start with actions, not
Yeah.
emotions.
Hmm.
And then I think over time you can build that dialogue. I remember for like even my wife, she initially for me, she tried to open me up like that, and I would be like, I'm not sad, I'm fine, relax, because it's always like it was almost like if she thinks I'm always sad, and especially when we're dating, like I was like maybe she won't want to be with me. So then
Yeah.
that was kind of like my fear as well, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's the other thing to reassure them as well that you want to accept all parts of them, and that you want to support them, you want to help them get through it, and just say, hey, I'm really concerned, right? Like
Yeah.
whether it may be drinking or eating or like whatever it may be, you can say, I've seen it's getting out of hand and I really want to help you and support you. And if I'm not the person, maybe there's someone in your circle. Maybe it's talking to someone, right? Because obviously the support a spouse can give us is great, but sometimes you do need that dialogue directly from a male as well, right? Because it's a different kind of setting. And the other thing I would tell people too is don't talk about your struggles with anyone, because a lot of people, especially in our community, they won't know how to help you, or they won't know how to listen. You got to be really selective of it.
Yeah.
Um, because the more you get shut down, the more it's just you're basically just harming yourself in that sense,
Yeah.
right? Like for me, when I first started to open up, I identified like family members in my family who had previously shared their struggles with mental health, and I went to them instead of going to everyone.
Yeah.
And then over time, it just became a thing where it became a part of who I am. And now I won't go around talking about it, but if someone asks me, like, what's your journey? I'll tell them. Like, it's not something I'm, not something I find hard anymore, but sometimes it still gets me. Even sharing it with you today got me a little emotional, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I hope that answers it.
Yeah, it does. It definitely helps. And as you said, I even tell, even with my clients, mostly they're women, but I still say, we women have a tendency to share it with everyone. So I always say, no, find your safe people.
Hmm.
Because there are people who are not your safe people and they're going to judge you, or
Yeah.
they're going to invalidate your emotions and just say, oh, it's no big deal. So you have to sometimes, through intuition, maybe just find those safe people. As you said, look at people who've talked about it. And if not, then seek help. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong in seeking professional help. Someone like you, they can reach out to you, for men, right?
Absolutely.
And I know in our culture, mental health, even though we have come far, I'm proud of us, but it's still a
Hmm.
taboo. It's still a tough,
Still work to do. Yeah.
lots of work to do. But seek that professional help, because that's a safe space for sure. And that's where there will be no judgment. And you have
Hmm.
someone who's not biased, who doesn't have their own conditioning, letting them think in a certain way, even though we
Yeah.
all have conditioning, but a coach like you or me, we know how to look at it in a non-judgmental way.
Of course. Yes.
When I did my speech at Toastmasters, I was doing some research and I
Hmm.
found some numbers. And I'm not going to go into too much stats, but this one really blew my mind. There was a survey done, and 1,000 men were asked the
Right.
reason that why do you not talk about your emotions and why do you not share that?
Yeah.
And 40% of them said, I have learned to just deal with it.
Yeah.
33% said, I don't want to be a burden.
Hmm.
23% said, I'm too embarrassed.
Hmm.
18% said, there is stigma.
There you go. You hit the most common things.
Right? Yeah. And then 14% said, I don't want to appear weak. And another leftover, whatever, said, I have no one to talk to. And
Yeah.
those reasons, like, really, do you think that's true?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. It is everything that you just spoke about is, I think, the
Yeah.
biggest obstacle for men to speak about it. And it's tough, right? Like, like if I was to dive into dealing with it, I think dealing with it, they just kind of going back to what I was saying when I was going through that journey of university. I had periods of stress, overwhelm, sadness, burnout, but I was quote unquote dealing with it, right? Just pushing through. But that's not really dealing with it. You're just like I said, you're going in the house with the fire. You're running through the house. You're burning, but you're just like, oh, I'm dealing with it. I'll be fine. I'll be fine, right? So
Yeah.
what exactly is that dealing with it? And I think like I don't want to be a burden. That's where I think that the piece of the partner comes in, like letting them know, no, you are not a burden. Like I want to help you because one of the things it's like a quote I always heard, like the more you look after yourself, the better you'll be for other people. And
Yeah.
until I truly experienced getting therapy and working on myself and healing is when that's the only when I realized that. I just thought, oh, it's just a quote that sounds all nice, but it's so true because the more happier I became, the better I became. Not only did I become better for my family and my wife, but now I'm able to help other people. And I wouldn't have done that
Yeah.
had I not taken a step back and saying, I'm sick and tired of this. I need help. I'm suffering. I need to talk about it. I need to heal. And it was hard, obviously. There's a lot of, like you said, conditioning and
Yeah.
things that, in our culture that, like, don't talk about it, don't appear weak. So there's a lot of that, like, shifting, right? And it took some time, but as a result, I'm happier. And the more happier and better I am, the more I can give to others too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we talked about the why, the conditioning. We talked about what's going on, the struggles and the challenges, and the what. But let's go to the how. Now, what can, like,
Hmm.
if you have to give three things, what can someone do when they
Right.
feel like they're struggling with their emotions or with mental health? Some tips or something you share with your clients without talking about seeking help. Yes, that's the last step, but what can they just do day to day basis?
Yeah, for sure. I think like I was saying, I think that's the best thing to that's the best part to start is because obviously it's a lot easier. No one's gonna judge you. But I think journaling or recording voice clips, like that's what I used to do. I remember before I would just record voice clips and delete them after, just because like what if someone steals my phone and hears this? Because I was like, I don't want them. It's not like I was sharing anything secretive. It was just more about like what I'm telling you today, right? The
Yeah,
mental health struggle. So I would record voice clips, and as I started to do that more, I was able to dig in deeper. Like, oh, okay, this situation, yeah, this person pissed me off, but now if I think about it, it didn't piss me off. It really hurt me how they treated me. Right. So as I started to do that more and check in with myself, not on a daily basis, maybe like a few days, um, I think it's important and like get away from being on your phone all the time. I sometimes struggle to do that too, but I'll always in my morning, like the first 10 minutes, I won't look at my phone. I'll meditate, journal, then I'll look at my phone after because I want to set myself up for the day. And same thing at night. And throughout the day, if I have a really, really busy day, I'll sit in my backyard and just like, look at the sun if it's out or meditate. So I think it's like giving yourself space and just asking yourself, how are you feeling? How are you doing today? What what bothered you today? What are you happy about, right? Asking yourself these common questions. And then the other thing is educating yourself, reading books on mental health. And if you don't want to read, there's audiobooks or
yeah,
there's podcasts, right? There's so many podcasts, like obviously this one, but then there's so many other ones where you can learn about mental health. And that's what I did initially, right? Like, I did the journaling, sorry, the voice clipping. I only did actual journaling like the last 2 years, but reading books really, really opened my mind and changed my perspective on mental health. And then connecting with like-minded people, right? Connecting with people, like I mentioned, who talk about mental health. So going to like workshops, going to webinars, watching YouTube videos, right? Then it started to really open my mind and made me realize, although I don't know all these people, I don't know the people in the books, I don't know the people in the workshops, I didn't feel alone anymore. And it felt like what I was experiencing was something it started to become normalized that,
yeah,
okay, maybe I'm not the only one going through this because sometimes it feels that way. And it just allowed me to open up. So these are some tips. And I think like try to take breaks as well. Like schedule breaks. Don't just take breaks when you're like, oh, I have nothing to do, so I'm just gonna chill. Like, no, actually schedule breaks,
yeah.
especially if you're really busy. If it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just have some alone time with yourself, and that can go a long way.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite one that you said is the voice clips because if I tell my husband to journal, he'll think I'm out of my mind. He's like,
Yeah,
"You want me to sit down and write? Are you kidding me?" But I think that
yeah,
voice clips is a really good idea because if someone who's never journaled, or if you're like, my wife journals, I don't journal, that's silly, then yeah, doing those voice clips, just and
hmm
then delete them if you want to delete them later. I really love that. I think that would really, as you said, you start seeing the patterns and you start seeing, oh, what's really happening down here
yes.
underneath the layers. I love, love, love that. Okay, so I didn't tell you this part, but I end my podcasts with a rapid fire round, and it's
Oh,
usually
okay,
really fun. So are you
awesome.
ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay. Tears in public, powerful or uncomfortable?
Mm, in public, I would say uncomfortable still. Yeah, it
Yeah.
would. I
Yeah, I
mean,
think so too. Yeah. Even for
yeah,
me, actually, I find that yeah, tears in public are uncomfortable. First word that comes to your mind when you hear the word therapy.
healing.
Yeah. What would the old Sunny would have said for that? The first word when you hear therapy.
I don't need it. Nothing's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Or not, that's not a word, but uh,
Yeah, yeah, but
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I'd be like, that's for people who struggle, but all of us struggle in some way.
Yeah, that's for people who struggle. Yeah, or um, that's for people who are crazy or have mental health challenges. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask that part also because this is the healed part of you, but I wanted to kind of get into the brain of everyone else who's
hmm
listening to this or the women who are listening to this. Your personal, oh, what's your favorite motivational song or something that hypes you up? It doesn't have to be a motivational song, but when you're feeling low, a song that hypes you up.
Uh, not necessarily a song, but I do
Yeah.
like to listen to Les Brown,
Okay.
motivational
Yeah.
speaker. Yeah, he did a speech. It's called Les Brown Georgia Dome, and it's very inspiring just because our stories are similar. Like was told he wouldn't amount to much as a young kid as well, and the odds were against him. So I always, when I'm doing a speech or like even today actually, when I woke up, I was a little tired, but I'm like, I want to put myself in a good state, so I listened to that before we recorded this.
Yeah, I got to see him live in Vegas in 2019 and
Oh
on
wow,
stage. Well, I
yeah,
didn't get to meet him, but he was on stage and I was in the audience. And he's just such a charismatic speaker and he's so
and so
funny.
funny.
He's so
Yeah,
funny and he's like when he talks about him as a little guy, you can actually see him being that little kid when he
yeah,
talks about his mother and when he bought the house for his mother. Like very, very motivational. I love, love, love
yeah.
that guy. One thing you wish every woman would know about men's mental health
Um,
or should know.
should know. All guys are suffering in some way. They all are, whether they show it or not. They are suffering, and that doesn't mean anything's wrong with them. It just means they're human.
Yeah. If the 5 year old or the 7 year old Sunny would meet you today, what would he say?
Uh, he wouldn't believe that this is me. Like he would think, like, wow, like how did you turn your life around and do this? And yeah, I actually was thinking about because I was doing a speech for elementary school students a few weeks ago, and that's what I was thinking. And yeah, I think he'd be intimidated by me, like, well, this is me. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
really
you
goes to
think you
show
think he'll be
the
proud as well? You think he'll be proud?
yeah, and
Yeah.
more so for the internal work, I would say. As
Yeah.
much as great as it is that I have these external accomplishments, being in human resources, being a coach, being a speaker, I think he'd be more proud of the internal work I've done.
Yeah. What's more stressful, crying in therapy or assembling IKEA furniture?
Oh, I suck with that actually. My wife really helps me do that. So
Oh my
I
gosh,
would
it's the
say that
same with us. My husband sucks at it, and I'm the one who figures it out.
I have cried in therapy, and it's really like in that setting, it's very like therapeutic, I would say, and it's very like it feels good. So I mean, I don't always do it, but between the two, if I had to do one, I would rather cry.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna ask some personal ones now. Personal in the sense like fun ones. Beach
Mhm.
or mountain?
Beach.
Okay, and you live in BC, so you have
Yeah.
both. You have both though, right?
Right. Yeah.
What's a favorite, and I know you said you listen to a lot of podcasts. What's a favorite podcast that you would recommend to anyone who's a man who's struggling with mental health?
Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes he interviews like celebrities and stuff, but then the ones he talks about like mental health and those kind of topics and like psychologists, therapists and so forth, those are for me personally, those are the ones I resonate with most.
Yeah.
But I think he's really good, he's really relatable, and he really simplifies things.
Yeah. And your own podcast?
Yeah, oh, yeah, that too, yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's true, yeah.
We'll talk about that in the end as well. But yes, your
Sure.
podcast, I think, is really amazing for men to listen to. One
Thank you.
emotion you think more men should embrace.
Feeling being hurt. I think they do. I feel like when they're hurt, they react with anger or they react with like, cutting people off and stuff. But I think really exploring why you've been hurt,
Hmm.
it makes it a lot better to communicate and resolve the issue with the individual, right? But again, with that, there's so much stigma. There's so much like, oh, I don't want to appear weak. But that's one thing I noticed in a lot, especially the clients I work with, is they're just hurt and the way they're reacting is anger.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Um, when someone says I'm fine, what does it actually mean?
99% they're not fine. They're it's just yeah, like it could be a number of reasons, but it's almost never that they're fine. There's something going on there.
Yeah. Okay, what's the one thing you can eat over and over and over? Your favorite snack or food that you can eat anytime. You'll never get sick and tired of it.
Uh I would say pepperoni pizza.
Okay, my son as well. What's on your night table right now?
Right now I have my journal, so like my journal, phone charger, and then the book I read, like just basically because I have like a book that I usually read.
Yeah.
So I actually just got a new one recently. Oh, what's it called again? It basically like talks about how to charge your battery in terms of like kind of like
Okay.
what we're talking about today, like
Yeah.
avoiding that burnout and like knowing how to say no and stuff. So really learning that. So yeah, I always like that's the other thing I do too is I'll journal and then no meditate, journal, then read for 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'll
Sounds
start my day.
sounds very similar to my routine in the morning. I
Yeah.
meditate, work out, journal, and then I used to read in the morning, now in the afternoon. But yeah, sounds like my day. I
Yeah.
just love it. My last question is my favorite question. I ask
Okay.
everyone. The name of this podcast is Authentic Me.
hmm
So can you fill in the blanks? I am authentic because
I am flat authentic because I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna make mistakes. I mean, I still do. I still have good days, bad days, but I'll take it. I'll embrace it with all parts of me. And it kind of reminds me of what I was having a conversation with someone last week, and I told them I have like this vision of leaving a legacy behind, right? Like it's very I'm only turning 35 soon, but I'm thinking about my legacy. I'm thinking about generations after me and the impact I leave. And that's to do with like how I help people, how I help with my family, my friends, being that person that showed up for them and helping out the community. And that's something I want to have a lot lasting impression on, right? And
yeah,
I was asked like, but isn't that pressure for you to be a certain way? I'm like, no, it's not because I'm going to be me regardless. My mistakes, my successes, my failures, everything. I want all of that to show
yeah,
and not just be this perfect person that's romanticized. I want them to look at all parts. And I just want that in itself, just me being me. I feel like that in itself
yeah,
will speak more volumes and last longer than it would be if people just looked at my good parts, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And we are scared to show things that we perceive as mistakes or negatives or
hmm
flaws, but that's what makes us who we are. And if we just be ourselves, I think that's a bigger example to show to the world.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable, showing our true selves. I just love, love, love it. And you just said you're 35. Oh gosh, you're way, way younger than me. Where can my listeners find you? And if you can share about your podcast as well and your coaching.
Yeah, for sure. So, best way to find me is on Instagram, Sunny C Coaching, Sunny C Coaching, and I'm currently taking clients on. I think the biggest thing that, and I think we talked about today, is just helping them navigate tough challenges, so tough conversations. So whether that's about opening up about their mental health or conflict with others, because I think for me, the biggest struggle was standing up for myself, right? Just to everyone in my life, it was hard, and I didn't know how to do it. But like I mentioned, that firmness and kindness approach, I really want to help people adapt that. So that's what I really work on with clients. And then also shifting their mindset on mental health, stigma, and just reclaiming all parts of themselves in their life. So that's something that I help clients out with as well. And from time to time, I have had female clients as well. So that's something I'm open to as well,
Mhm.
kind of around the same things. And then it could also be just their relationship with their partner, and it could even be a couples thing. So I'm certainly open to that. And then in terms of the podcast, it's the South Asian Healing Podcast. Lately, I've had a lot of solo episodes, so you'll see like topics of like therapy, my experiences, kind of like what I talked about today. A lot of it is shared in detail. I've been
Yeah.
talking about like my alcohol journey. I've been talking about therapy, bullying, childhood, like really everything that things that don't get talked about.
Yeah.
And then I'll have guests on as well where we talk about different topics relating to the same stuff. And I'd love to have you on as well. I think it would be really, really good.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. I missed this, so I do want to congratulate you on being sober for 7 years.
Thank
Did you
you.
say? Yeah. And
7 months,
all
7 months.
7 months. Well, that's
Yeah.
big. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I really want to congratulate you on that. And I'm trying to break that stigma where people are like, oh, but why? Because my husband was sober for 2 years, and oh gosh, everyone's like, but why? You can have one drink.
hmm
So I want to break that stigma. So I want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
And for anyone who's listening, sometimes when we ask our partners or the men in our life what's going on and all, they're not open to have that conversation. So, a really good way, and this is my one tip I want to give everyone, is you can send them to Sunny's page. Let them, because they don't want to
hmm
hear from you, right? Sometimes, we don't want to hear from our partners and moms. And so, direct them, say, hey, I just saw this Instagram reel or of this guy and he's talking about men's mental health. It's so amazing. Forward them that reel from Sunny's page, and that is one way that they can get that help without feeling being judged or anything. They
Hmm.
can relate to another man talking about it. So I really wanted to say that that's my one tip. Go follow him. He's doing really amazing work.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for doing all that you're doing. And I truly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so,
I
so
did too.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for providing me the space, and I felt really comfortable being vulnerable and sharing my story and sharing a lot of insight and just my observations as, my personal experience and just what I see in my circle and my clients. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And on that note, this is Sunny Square signing off. Until next time, keep loving yourselves and stay authentic.